Now, ta-te-ti-to-tu.
Ta-te-ti-to-tu.
No, Miss Lamont. Round tones, round tones. Now let me hear you read your line.
And I can't stand him.
And I can't stand him.
And I can't stand him.
Can't.
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 Can't. Very good. Now, around the rocks, the rugged rascal ran.
Around the rocks, the rugged...
Rocks.
Around the rocks, the rugged rascal ran.
Very good. Oh, hi, Don. Shall I continue?
Yeah, go ahead. Not my name.
Now, sinful Caesar sipped his snifter, seized his knees, and sneezed.
You are listening to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. The following podcast contains adult language, adult situations, and spoilers for the movies discussed occur often. You've been warned. Now, take it away, Dr. Rausch.
They must be destroyed on sight.
And welcome back. It is They Must Be Destroyed on Sight, episode 232. And I'm your host, Lee. I'd rather kiss a tarantula, Russell. Joined once again by my co-host, Lee. She can't act, she can't sing, she can't dance. A triple threat, Hardy. How are you doing, ma'am?
That sounds about right. I definitely can't dance or sing. I can kind of act.
Yeah. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, you know.
I got a really bad French accent.
Hey, whatever works. And we're pleased to be joined by someone who's guested on this show a few times in the past, a good friend of ours and a co-host, or a host and co-host of other podcasts, Gary, a shimmering, glowing star in the cinema firmament. Hill, how you doing, sir?
I am a big, big shining star, as one man once said about his penis. But yeah, I'm here, man. How you doing?
Really good, really good.
Don't most men say that?
Well, one guy did once do a fake penis. You know, that's another movie altogether, you know.
Yeah, so this is a movie that Gary picked because I was like, hey, you getting back on this podcast anytime soon? You have the list. So he was like, okay, let's do Singin' in the Rain. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I told Lee about it, and happens to also be on her movie list for film classes. So it just worked out perfectly. So
Get two birds stoned at once.
2 birds stoned. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Singin' in the Rain, 1952. You might have heard of it. It's an obscure little musical from 52, but you know, that's what we do on this show. We talk about obscure movies that no one's ever heard of. So we'll enlighten you all very soon here. But before we do that, I do have a fairly substantial piece of listener feedback to get into here. So I'm going to try to go through it really quickly. Daniel was supposed to be on this episode, and it would have made a bit more sense to have him on here because this is in relation to when we did The Man Who Laughs. Quite a while back now, but from Alicia Nyblade on YouTube. So a good YouTube comment as well, which is very rare. And I've actually looked at her channel too, and I guess she's big into this story. Like she's actually writing a play adaptation of this. She said, I read the Hugo novel. To answer your questions about Gwynplaine and Josina in the book, Gwynplaine doesn't go to see her. After she sends him her invitation, in fact, he burns it and tries to forget about her. It's only later, after he's been taken away to become a lord, that he accidentally finds Josina's room while searching the palace for Dea and Ursus. That's when the attempted seduction takes place. As for Dea, yeah, she's pretty bland in the book, too, but let's face it, Hugo wasn't the best at writing multifaceted female characters. They're either virgins or vamps. But speaking as someone who's visually impaired herself, have been since birth. I interpret Dia's supposed ditziness as what people think she is. Just like they take Gwynplaine for just a clown, they assume Dia has nothing going on in her head because of her blindness, a disability which has long been used as a metaphor for innocence or stupidity, and is still a misconception perpetrated today. Yeah. Also, just a friendly word of warning, avoid the adaptations from the 60s and 2012. Both are absolutely terrible. And she spoils it going on here saying the Italian film features Gwynplaine, renamed Angelo because the story is set in Italy now, happily accepting his role as the Dutch's lover without so much thought for his adopted family he's leaving behind. Oh, that's stupid. And after a bunch of drama, including Dea getting gang raped by a group of soldiers who are since to banish her and Ursus, Angelo renounces his titles and returns to the fair to marry Dea. Oh, and he has an operation to fix his face. And Dea magically gets her sight back because people with disabilities can't live perfectly happy lives as themselves. That's fantastic. And then she says, in the 2012 film, that production was basically the classic case of a film company taking the bare bones of a book and stringing them together with what the kids are into these days. Gwynplaine and Dea do die in the end, but is it done as Hugo wrote? No, of course not. In the novel, Dea dies from the shock and joy of Gwynplaine's return. She and Ursus had been told he was dead, so they wouldn't go looking for him after he'd been made a lord. And Gwynplaine drowns himself to join her. Happy. In the 2012 film, Dea drinks poison because she overheard Gwynplaine and Josiza fucking, and Gwynplaine drowns himself. Oh, that's great. She does say that the TV show in the 70s is good, though. There's a TV adaptation. If you want to check out another version, I'd say go with that one. All right, there we go. Thank you, Alicia. A lot of nice little bit of extra information there. Consider it like a DVD extra on the podcast if you've listened to it lately. So there we go. We can move on now to what we've watched in the last little while. I've got nothing to mention, but I'll throw over to our guest, Gary.
Well, today I watched a movie that I had no expectations and saying, hey, this is going to be something I enjoyed, but I really enjoyed it. I watched the brand new Cruella de Vil movie, known as Cruella, starring the great Emma Stone, the great Emma Watson as well. And this is like one of those origin stories where they take her from, she's a little girl, she's an angry little girl who has, I guess, options to be like a fashion designer, and she becomes one of those in a way. She works her way up, and then she finds out some stuff about her mother, and she becomes angry because she becomes angrier, becomes rival with Emma Watson's character, who's like this big. Emma Thompson's character, who's like this big old fashionista lady, and becomes like a war. So it's kind of like Devil Wears Prada meets the Joker. Because by the end of the movie, she becomes who she is, but not like mean, but like fierce, if you will. Like she's independent. But all the performances are fun. There's a lot of British actors I do not know what they're from, but they're all cast very well. And I would see it in the theater. I watched it at home, but I would see it in the theater. I had fun with it.
I was seeing I didn't watch a whole trailer through or whatever, but I saw images from it and stuff, and I was thinking, oh, this feels like they're kind of like, oh, what if Tim Burton made Cruella de Vil in the 1990s? But
it's kind of has that feel to it, but it's fun. Dogs are doing stuff in the movie. Great dog actors. Sometimes they're CG, but not CG. But I've always been a Emma Stone fan. I'm a closeted person who loves the film Easy A for some reason. I've watched it multiple times. And, these are things that I enjoy. And, more unimportant, but very important. I replaced my Blu-ray copy, the Shout Select version of Roadhouse. And that's always a magical time. You're younger than the rest of us, Lady Lee. Have you seen Roadhouse?
I have not.
That is a man-style film right there that I think everybody should watch. Because
I have heard of it.
that is male bonding at its finest. That's also Roadhouse,
I think at the very least you'll enjoy the martial arts action in it, Lee.
Okay.
It's kind of in a way stupid, over the top, macho 1980s martial arts.
Totally.
But at the same time, there's kind of a gritty realism to it too. That's kind of interesting.
Has lines such as, "I heard you have balls that could fill a dump truck." As in, you can let that much fluid out to fill a dump truck. And I used to fuck guys like you in prison. But the great Ben Gazzara is in the film, and he's great in that movie. So there's that, and Patrick Swayze and
Sam Elliott.
The great Sam Elliott. Yes,
Yep.
I love you, mijo. It says it all. That's all I'm saying. I like to imagine that that's his son. I like to imagine that. But that's a fantasy I have about Roadhouse, and it needs to be watched.
Yeah.
For Jeff Healey alone, it needs to be watched. Okay, that's a blind guitar player right there.
Yeah. Well, Jeff Healey was Canadian, was he not? I believe.
Yes, he was. Yes.
Yeah. So it was like that actually kind of put him on the map a little bit. Like he was this kind of Canadian musician. Either you move to the U.S. and make your fortune, or no one ever hears of you. Except for north of the border. And
well, discovered by Stevie Ray Vaughan, so that helps things move things along. Yeah.
Now we have a movie for movie night.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do Roadhouse.
Yeah,
if you're feeling especially froggy, do Roadhouse too. You ever want a film where Jake Busey is a meth dealer who does martial arts? You can watch that movie.
Oh boy. Okay. Maybe.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying it's there, and
I just need to watch it.
You need to see it at least once. If you're feeling froggy,
Oh no, I got burned by Jake Busey in The Hitcher Part 2, so I don't know about that.
Was he really the biggest problem with that film though? I think it was Thomas Howell.
And what was it? Gary
Wurr, yes. Yeah.
My God, that whoever decided to make that movie was just ugh. Lady Lee, anything you've watched lately?
Yes, mine's going to be a lot less fun than Roadhouse. Anyways, I watched Tower, 2016 documentary. So it is an animated documentary about the shooting that happened August 1st, 1966. Yeah, the one where the sniper went up to the University of Texas Tower and just started sniping at people randomly. The way they did it was kind of cool because it was animated, and at the end they actually showed you interviews with the actual survivors and the people who were a part of the shooting. I don't know if I cared for the animation. I don't think it's something I would like to do again, but I did think they did a really good job of kind of reliving the experience because the whole time you heard the gun shooting as the whole thing went, and I think the movie was as long as the shooting went because the movie's an hour and a half and the shooting went on for 96 minutes, so I think it's pretty close to that. So I don't know if that was intentional, but it's something that I did notice. And I think they did as many shots as there was, or tried to do. But it was really cool. It was very interesting to watch. It was a different way to see a documentary. Pretty sure in 24 hours I watched the darkest movie and the most jovial movie. Just just completely two opposite ends. But yeah, last week we did The Act of Killing, which was the point of view from the killers, and this week I did Tower, which was the point of view of the victims. So I went on extreme ends again.
It's like getting the large popcorn at the theater and they get the diet soda to balance it out.
Yeah. I want a diet. I'll have a Caesar salad.
Yeah. I was looking into watching that. It intrigued me because it's dramatic recreation in animation form, which is not a thing I recall ever being done before necessarily.
I think it's the first one to do it of its style. That kind of style.
Because usually you end up, you get true crime recreations of, dramatizations of things. And it's this looks like a really bad episode of Unsolved Mysteries. And I don't know if I want to keep watching this. And Robert Stack isn't even here to where did she go? What happened to her? So,
See, when I get lonely, in the documentary I watch is that Fred Rogers documentary. It's always a mistake, but always a wonderful surprise at the same time. Because once Lady Evelyn starts talking to Daniel Tiger, and I start having feelings about myself. About an hour ago, I hit the pause button and say, okay, I need a moment here, you know. Because Fred Rogers got real on me as Daniel the Striped Tiger, you know. Sometimes I feel that I'm a mistake too, but you know, then they sing the song and I feel a lot better about myself.
Nice.
Are you going to sing it for us? We'll just,
No,
like-
that is a duet, and I'm gonna leave it be, okay? You know,
That's only behind the Patreon wall.
there you go.
Yeah, our non-existent Patreon. So there you go.
so you'll never hear it.
Yeah, look for that never. Yeah, we're gonna take a quick break, play a couple podcast promos, some music, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about Singin' in the Rain.
You ungodly warlock.
There's this show called Movie Melt, and you probably know about it. And it's once every 2. I have no idea how often this is uploaded. And it's a show where a bunch of compañeros get together and we play some fun games, trivia mainly. We talk about new releases. We have some fun games where we try and guess the title of a movie based on stuff that really probably religious people write on IMDb. Yeah, it takes about 20 hours to record. There's always a failure midway through. And then the highlight of the week of the show is reviewing a movie. Usually it's kind of a interesting, lesser-known cult-type movie, and it's quite enjoyable. It sounds good in theory, yes. I might have a listen one day.
Wow.
Howdy, folks. Like blood, violence, freaks and nature. You come to the right place. My name is Gary, and I'm your guide to Sin and Beef Podcast. Every episode, we not only deliver film reviews, we also dismantle some of your favorite and most hated films. Sometimes for the better, and sometimes for the worse.
Hey, you shut your face! If we want to hear you talk, I will shove my arm up your ass and work your mouth like a puppet.
All right, calm down. Every show I hope to have a new co-host, podcasters, listeners alike. That's right, I'm talking to you people. I take all comers.
You're sluts.
That's not very nice. The only rules, well, let's ask the best cooler in the business.
All you have to do is follow 3 simple rules. 1, never underestimate your opponent. Expect the unexpected. 2, take it outside. Never start anything inside the bar unless it's absolutely necessary. And 3, be nice.
So join the insanity and please vent your frustrations. I'm available on TalkShoe, iTunes, and Stitcher Smart Radio. Remember, here at the Sin and Beef Podcast, if you got beef, I've got the grinder.
You ungodly warlock.
Fit as a fiddle, ready for love. I can jump over the moon up above. Fit as a fiddle and ready for love. Haven't to worry, haven't a care. Feel like a feather that's floating on air. Fit as a fiddle and ready for love. Soon the church bells will be ringing, and I'll march with ma-in-law. How the church bells will be ringing, with a hey nonny nonny and a ha-cha-cha. I did a little, my baby's okay. Ask me a riddle, and what did she say? Fit as a fiddle and ready for love.
All right, we're back. And yeah, there was a quote from Roadhouse there, just in case you didn't know, Lady Lee.
Yeah, you're welcome, Lee. Here you go. No, that is a very old promo. I got to fix that problem.
Yeah, like, are some of the platforms you even mentioned that you're on still in existence?
They're not on talk show anymore, for sure. You know.
Oh, well. Maybe they could find it on the Internet Archive. Talk show.
Do it.
Okay, so Singing in the Rain from 1952.
Picture those romantic lovers of the screen, Don Lockwood and Lena Lamont.
Public is screaming for more.
More what?
Talking pictures.
Make a musical.
Musical?
Make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh. Don't you know everyone wants to laugh? My dad said be an actor, my son, but be a comical one.
Don, believe me, it will be a sensation. Lamont and Lockwood, they talk.
Well, of course we talk. Don't everybody?
Good morning.
Good morning.
We've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
This California dew was just a little heavier than usual tonight.
Really? From where I stand, the sun is shining all over the place. Life was a song. You came along.
You've come a long way, Don. Won't you tell us how it all happened?
First, we set the stage with a song. It goes like this. Dancing and singing in the rain.
This is directed by Stanley Donen, and he was a friend of Gene Kelly. They became friends, I think, during the Broadway time, and they sort of rekindled their collaboration in Hollywood a few years later. They collaborated on a bunch of classical musicals. This was kind of like the time sort of known as the A production musicals in Hollywood under the production of Arthur Freed. So they collaborated and co-directed On the Town, Singing in the Rain, and Take Me Out to the Ball Game from 1949. They split ways, and he continued to do a lot of similar stuff. Song and dance man himself, so sort of dabbled in all kinds of different stuff. He directed Bedazzled from 1967, the original one. And his career, oddly enough, ended in the 80s on two real oddball films in his filmography, Saturn III and Blame It on Rio, which, I don't even know what to tell you about that. Saturn III is interesting on its own. Blame It on Rio is, I'd say it's probably pretty problematic at this point in time. A very overage Michael Caine leering over some teenage girls in Rio.
Well, Saturn III has Harvey Keitel implanting his brain into a sex robot or something. I don't know what's going on in that movie. And
Kirk Douglas with Farrah Fawcett, I think?
Farrah Fawcett. Yeah,
Kirk Douglas was at least probably 30 years older than her at that point, playing the husband, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, right. He was much older than she was, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying it really badly, lately, like it's a bad movie, you shouldn't watch it, but it's really a good movie. It's just really strange. Because you could tell right away that Harvey Keitel has unintentional, appeals towards Farrah Fawcett. And then he puts all those appeals inside of a robot who wants to get with her, apparently.
Yeah. It's a movie that's ahead of its time, maybe. I don't know. And so also directed by Gene Kelly. We'll get more into him here in a second. It's written by Betty Comden and Adolph Green. I guess they wrote the story as well, but one of the trivia points here is that the story was actually kind of written around the songs. If you look at their credits, they're pretty much just credited for soundtrack stuff for the most part. Their songs, a lot of them from this actually just appear in other movies throughout the decades afterwards, right? Like one of their songs is in Leon the Professional, for fuck's sakes, at some point. I can't remember which one or when, but I do know that. So I assume they also kind of like wrote with Gene Kelly and Stanley Donen, just like thinking up scenes and stuff to sort of put around this music basically and develop a story. So there you go. We got Gene Kelly as Don Lockwood. You might know him from this film and Inherit the Wind, some other musicals and stuff. Big time song and dance man, as you can see on screen here.
Don't forget Xanadu, man, because that's important stuff.
I was about to say his career ended just as interestingly as Stanley Donen's did. He was in Viva Knievel and Xanadu at the end of his career. So those are. What a way to go out. We have Donald O'Connor as Cosmo Brown. Some things here that jumped out at me. He played Buster Keaton in the Buster Keaton Story, 1957. And he was in a film that you just covered on the projection booth, Pandemonium, from 1982.
Yep.
We have Debbie Reynolds here as Kathy Selden. Other things that she's been in is How the West Was Won in 1962, The Singing Nun from 66. And her final role was Behind the Candelabra from 2013, the film about Liberace with Michael Douglas playing Liberace, and she played Liberace's mom, Frances Liberace. Jean Hagen as Lena Lamont. I knew her from somewhere, and it was The Asphalt Jungle from 1950, which is a great little film noir heist film. Another one that popped out for me here was Dead Ringer from 64. And that was, I think, her final film role, actually. Her film career kind of petered out in the 60s, and she went to TV, and she died in, 77 of throat cancer or something like that. But I'm not going to get too much into any of the other credits. We're in this sort of dangerous time now where people are living longer, and they have, a million fucking credits. So it's not like 1922 movie starring this person who died 3 years later and had 5 credits to their name,
It looked like 45 when he was 21.
Mm-hmm. They had 5 credits, and 3 of them were, what those silent films that were lost in a fire somewhere. No one's ever seen them, So we got Millard Mitchell as R.F. Simpson, Sid Charisse as the dancer, Douglas Foley as Roscoe Dexter, and Rita Monroe as Zelda Zanders. And synopsis here. Taking place during the rise of the talkies, we meet Don Lockwood and Lena Lamont, who have risen to stardom during the silent film era of Hollywood. Beautiful, charismatic, and influential, the two combined to make a great on-screen pair. The introduction of talking pictures poses a threat to the powerful duo, however, when it is discovered by audiences that Lena has an excruciatingly shrill voice. Enter young studio singer Kathy Selden, a woman who lacks the stardom of Miss Lamont, but possesses the beautiful voice of which Lena is in dire need. Can Don and Lena find a solution to Lena's laughably annoying voice to salvage their careers? And that was done by Kyle Perez. So, yeah, we'll just sort of get into it here. I'll get your general thoughts on this first, Gary.
Well, the reason why I picked this one is it was on your list. I'm not sure who else would have picked it if they came on the show, and I was raised on this kind of stuff, basically, from my grandmother. People say the first thing I ever saw Yul Brynner was Magnificent Seven. I saw him in The King and I before any of those other movies.
Oh, yeah.
This is one of those early ones that I didn't revisit for a very long time, and then, a couple of years ago, out of the blue, I was like, yeah, I'll get into it. And then, one of those things is it'll make you fall back into it again, because a lot of these guys came from vaudeville type stuff. It shows on screen, just the kinetic energy between Donald O'Connor and Gene Kelly in this film is, especially when they're dancing together and doing the acts together. It is the strongest part of this movie for me. And Debbie, of course, she's a baby in this movie. She's really young in this movie. Most of you here Singing in the Rain, you guys think about Clockwork Orange, and you should, because it took that and made it gross. But you know what? I think about that, and I also think about how can a man tap dance in the rain? It'll make you believe that, and I'm fine with that. Yeah, I dig it, and it's hard for films that stand the test time like this, but it does. I still really enjoy it, and I think that Sean Hayes owes most of his Jack character from Will and Grace to Donald O'Connor, because it's almost the same thing. I'm a guy who likes Will and Grace, and I didn't notice it till I was much older. It's like, yeah, there's something there that he may have borrowed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, Lady Lee.
I fucking loved it. I thought it was so freaking cute. The dancing, like the tap dancing, was awesome. Like, it's one of those things that you don't really see in musicals in general anymore. So I thought that was really cool. I also really enjoy it. So the thing I love about these movies is that a lot of the acting is stage acting versus like movie acting, and it's just so energetic to watch. Like, you just really get into it. Donald O'Connor was my absolute favorite in the movie. I know he wasn't like the main guy, but my goodness, how freaking adorable was he? Like, he was just this star in the show. Like, he was just so friggin' awesome. Like, you were so drawn to his energy. I'm also obsessed with Debbie Reynolds. She's such a beautiful woman. I friggin' love her. I was so sad when she passed away. It was one of those people that I was very brokenhearted about it. But yeah, I'm actually pretty excited that we chose this movie, just because, like we said, it's on my movie list. It's not till later in the semester, but it's done. So my homework's done. But I'll probably watch it again. I heard it a lot when I was a kid. Like, I remember my dad used to always sing the song, and then that clip was always in different commercials and different like movies. I don't think movies, but anyways, different commercials, different TV shows. Like, you always heard them mention Singing in the Rain, but I never actually saw the movie. So today, when I first saw it, I was pretty stoked. The only thing I didn't like was how the relationship first started. I found was kind of aggressive. So that was a little bit of that old school mentality. But other than that, I thought it was freaking awesome. Like, it was a great movie. It was super freaking cute.
This is first time watch for me. Honestly, this is one of those films where it's not only a first time watch, but it's like almost like a cinematic void for me. Like, I don't recall ever seeing any other Gene Kelly stuff, really. I know he's in Xanadu. I've never watched Xanadu, but I know what it is, like, And so going into this, I was just sort of going into this kind of really blind. I mean, everybody knows the song Singing in the Rain. You can, like, maybe there's generations now that don't know what it is necessarily, but I can't think of anyone from like Gary and I's generation or before that, and maybe just a generation after that.
They have it on recent commercials.
It's got a bunch of stuff in here actually that's kind of like stood the test of time. Just like I said, the two people who wrote all the songs for this, their soundtrack credits are just in every fucking movie for every decade going forward, kind of thing, So there's a lot of classics here. So I'm not the biggest musical fan. You got to really try hard to make me like your musical if that's what you're presenting in front of me. I just, when people break in the song in the middle of like dramatic scenes and stuff, that kind of takes it out of reality for me. I can't suspend my disbelief as much. But this one doesn't do that as much. Like, it's much more focused around, hey, we're actually doing like stage shows and we're doing performances and stuff like that. So that kind of works. This is almost like a Warner Brothers like cartoon in the flesh, the way the performances are, like, very snappy and cartoonish, which kind of overshadows the kind of waves away how bare bones the actual story is. It's just it's just a love triangle. Like, it's very by the numbers. You can tell that they weren't caring too much about the story as they were about the performers, the songs, and the physical performances, which are fucking excellent. I'd say Donald O'Connor is way better than Gene Kelly, and Gene Kelly ain't no fucking slouch. Like, Donald O'Connor, he has a weird physicality to him where he's literally like an acrobat, pretty much. Like, just like at one point he starts trying to cheer up Gene Kelly and he's banging on the piano and shit, and then in one move, like, he literally doesn't, like, you don't see him like set himself up for it or anything. He manages to launch himself off of the fucking piano bench onto the top of the fucking piano in some weird way. And I'm like, how in the fuck did he do that?
He moves so flawlessly.
And in my best day, I could never do that. Like, when I was even reasonably in shape, I could never hope to do that without, like, seriously injuring myself. It's in some fashion, you know? Like, I was just looking at, like, that guy's freakish. Like, how is this guy not the main star almost? Like, he's just really good. So, yeah, I generally liked it. Like, I'll get into the sort of the stuff that just didn't do much for me, but overall, I did like it enough that I'm, you know, by the end of this, I'll give a recommendation, but we'll just sort of, you know, open it up now. Whatever you guys want to sort of like point out and talk about. Lee?
I thought that Lena got kind of shit on in the one part because, you know, when they went from silent movies to voice acting, they were making her seem like she was the issue, but realistically it's just kind of getting used to new technology because they're acting with a microphone in front of them and they're supposed to talk to it and they keep trying to rearrange it and they make it seem like it's her fault the whole time. Where I was like, okay, no, as much as she's most meant to hate her, you can't blame her for the fact that they're having issues with sound when no one knows what to do. Like, this is all new to everybody. Like, you can't just shit on one person because you guys don't know how it works. Like,
yeah, I mean, the movie she's got, you know, character traits that are not nice. Like, she's a vindictive, you know, backbiting bitch, basically. But
she is. Like,
part of the thing is, though, she's also kind of a victim of the studio system too. Mm-hmm. You know, the transition from silent movies to talkies. It's not so much that she's terrible, that her voice is that horrible. Like, actually, if you hear her as she goes through, her voice actually slightly gets a bit better.
I thought it was so cute. I actually liked her voice. I was like, that's adorable.
I mean, she's like straight up pretty much like a slightly more shrill, like Betty Boop or something like that, you know, almost kind of thing, you know. And
she's a New Jersey Betty Boop. You know?
Yeah, there you go. And it's like, you know, her voice ain't that bad. Sure, it might take away from her getting the starring roles, and even that's, you know, a problematic thing of the movie system back in the day, where it's like, oh, we can only use certain, and I mean, it still happens today, that we can only use certain people for certain roles and shit like that. Like, yeah, you know, that's all bullshit. But no, she grew on me. Her voice grew on me. I was like, I'm actually fine with this. The things I don't like about her is that she's a fucking bitch. Like, yeah, she's just a nasty fucking bitch, and she's also in total denial too. She's like, she's trying to get on Gene Kelly's dick this whole movie, and Gene Kelly's like, I'm not interested. I don't think they ever necessarily say if it's because of her shrill voice, or if it's just because she's or if she's just an awful person. But you know, I got to tell you, like, I loved that sort of the whole microphone gag they did. Like, I was actually super surprised how well it came off when they're doing the preview of the movie for the first dub or whatever, and everything's off on the microphone. Like, she turns her head, you can't hear her all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. For a minute, I thought, wait, is there a defect in the movie I'm watching? Did they fuck up this? Oh no, they're actually pulling off a really cool gag for 1952. That's really smart. Cool. Yeah,
the clicking of the pearls and the you know, everything. Yeah,
I'm just the other voice.
Yeah, the film slows down for a brief second and the sound slows down.
I love the enunciation coaches.
Mm-hmm.
The enunciation. Yeah, I thought that part was pretty hilarious with her going can't and she's going can't.
Yeah. Can't.
And just the rolling your R's.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember which part they did, but the rover rode something. Rover. Like the really over exaggeration of the R's. Yeah.
I did think it was funny how, like, in Lena's case, when the movie starts and they give you sort of the background stuff, they keep her silent for like a good, 10, 15 minutes or something before she finally talks. So you don't get it until like it actually sets it up as a joke. The first time you hear it, it's like, oh God, okay, I get it.
the director sitting in the back is very nervous because he knows how she's going to sound, and she sounds the way she sounds. But I get the way they were going though. That, they were stars established before the talkie. Mm-hmm. So they weren't together in the talkie era. it'd feel weird, I guess. But then she sounds the way she sounds, and it's not exactly screen friendly, I guess, as a leading lady. I guess, I don't know. Perhaps.
Yeah, the studio's probably like making most of their money off this pairing and all these films they've done together, right? So anything that threatens that, any perceived threat to that, is going to be like, it's going to kill their bottom line. So
can you imagine how awful it would be to like be with somebody and then to do all your movies with that person? Like, I can't even imagine. Like, I get it would be cool to have a spouse where you do a movie with them, but to do every single movie with them and then live with them, like, I feel like that would be way too much. Like, that would just be an overabundance of being with your partner.
There's being professional, and then there's having the girl that's trying to get up on your nuts when you really don't want her to,
Yeah.
Because you can be broken up and be professional, I guess, unless you're, like, really bitter or something.
Yeah. I mean, you see a lot of Hollywood, like, relationships go that way, though, right? Like, two big stars meeting on the set and they hit it off, and then they make a couple movies together, then everything goes sour because, for whatever reason. But imagine also being back in that period, especially when, you were kind of like stuck in big contracts to studios and stuff. You had to kind of work together. Imagine working together and hating each other. Like
well,
that much.
You mentioned the studio system. I mean, all these guys were contracted by somebody, so they had to work together, contractually obligated to work together. They really didn't have a choice back in those days.
It just makes me think of like the last years of like Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis or something like that, where they weren't getting along and shit, and or maybe like the last 20 years of the Ramones' fucking career.
Yeah,
where everybody in the band hated everybody else pretty much, but they were still touring like endlessly just because they had to survive, basically. Yeah, you can see Gene Kelly's character here. He's desperately trying to get unstuck from this. Like, he's just, and he also, I love how he's actually kind of insecure about how good of an actor he is or not, because Debbie Reynolds, like, even though Debbie Reynolds is kind of bullshitting too, because she hasn't done anything yet really, but she's like, well, I'm a real actress, I'm a stage actor, and we read lines and stuff like that. You're just one of those silly silent films where you flap your hands around like a bunch of doofuses, kind of thing. It's like anybody can do that shit. Totally not true. After all the sort of silent films Daniel and I have gone through in the last year or so, you can definitely see like the different skill set involved, but like the physical acting, you have to kind of like nail down. It was a definite talent, even though still a lot of those people sort of fell by the wayside and didn't have long careers after the talkies hit. It was more perception than what they actually could or could not do, kind of thing. And I mean, talking about like that's kind of one of the criticisms I have of this film, is that I kind of wish it dipped more into the silent movie aspect of things. Like in the opening of the film, you get a little hint at a film I want to see. I want to see Stuntman from the silent movie era. Like that looked kind of fun. Like, cause you see Gene Kelly before he becomes a big star, he just gets in as a stunt performer in these silent films. And at one point, he does the cowboy stunt where the actor gets hit and knocked out, so he can't do the stunt properly. And then Gene Kelly steps in and just fucking nails it. Yeah.
The stunt for some of those stunts that they did, it was, again, very impressive. Because that they did not have the safety nets and stuff that they have today.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them are just like, hey, cool, just throw yourself as hard as you can into this wall and have fun. Or jump off this thing and make it look acrobatic. Have fun.
I mean, I don't think it's even been until the last few decades where they've really had any kind of like decent safety standards for stunt performers. It kind of feels like even up until about the 70s, it was still pretty fucking dangerous to be a stunt performer. It was kind of loosey-goosey, kind of thing.
Well, even the non-stunt performer, you're about the apparatus that Christopher Reeve wore for Superman the movie, it was not very comfortable And he had to wear it for like 8 hours a day or something, you know.
Yeah.
Just that thing strapped around his junk, you know, and across his chest.
But yeah, I mean, like it feels like, you know, I mean, Stuntman Mike from Death Proof, he's kind of like an unemployed stuntman who's, you know, the stuntman business changed. He's kind of like probably his last heyday was probably doing a couple spots on Miami Vice or something like that as a coordinator or something like that. You kind of imagine, you know. Yeah,
I work for Hell Needham. Come on now, you know.
I like the tongue twisters in the movie. When they did the tongue twister scene and the tongue twister song. That was probably like one of my favorite parts. That was really cute. It was just a fun way to make it was because like in drama you learn tongue twisters in order to help enunciation. I don't know if actual actors do that, but I know we did that in like high school drama. So it's just kind of one of those things where like I know you're doing that.
I feel some probably still do because I think everybody. I think everybody's got a voice coach at this point. Like you can't really be a name actor in Hollywood without a voice coach, right? Like it's just kind of has to be, you know, unless you're Sean Connery, ain't, you know, rest in peace. No one's gonna tell you can't be an Egyptian Spaniard, you know, and it still sounds Scottish.
You gotta lose that Australian accent, you know. Ask Mel Gibson. Watch Mad Max and watch Lethal Weapon. It's still a little bit prevalent, Lethal Weapon, but not much. It's kind of went away, you know.
Yeah. He just I feel like Mel Gibson just kept sucking his voice in more and more of each movie. It's like getting a little bit gruffer to the point where you can't distinguish it from Australian or just like American who smokes too much kind of thing, you know, like
gotta smoke those Camels unfiltered. Come on now, just to get that good gruff there.
I want to sound raspy. Jennifer Tilly was the actress that I was thinking of, the one who has like a very similar voice.
Oh yeah.
Kind of made it famous because of her voice and her big boobs, but
yeah, that too.
She had that like super girly voice. So yeah, some people make it big with their voice. Screw them, denying her voice, even though Lena was awful. Like she was an awful human being.
Yeah, just a shitty person. Like but go ahead, Gary.
I'll say one thing. You want to learn about the process of ADR, replacement ADR. You could watch this Jaunty film and you'll learn all about it because that's the whole plot of the whole second plot of the film is replacing her voice with Debbie Reynolds' voice in the film, and and then she's feeling it, bro. She got David Prowse all over that motherfucker. but she was into it, man.
Yeah, no, I mean it is good as a movie making movie, like a movie about making movies. It does get into a lot of that stuff.
It's cool. And I mean, background too.
Talking background. Now I didn't like. I'll fully admit, like I kind of looked away from the screen once in a while once we got into some of the musical numbers. Like I said again, musicals not my thing, so sometimes I'm just okay. Here's another 5-minute song and dance thing that I can kind of look away from. So I probably didn't catch everybody, like all the cool shit going on in the background, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the background of this entire film. I liked in the opening, there was this character that was at the swanky party and she had like a spider dress on, almost like it kind of looked like spider webs, and she had this like unique like head piece on her head.
Yes,
and she reminded me of I can't remember which one it is. It's either Sleeping Beauty or Snow White, but the witch basically from one of those.
Sleeping Beauty.
I think it's Sleeping Beauty actually.
Maleficent.
Yeah. Yes. She reminded me of that. And she's dancing with this dude. He looks like he could be like Gomez Adams' dad or something like that. You know,
yeah. That dress is beautiful.
I like that. And there's also this one gag that just made me chuckle, and it's just a sight gag, and it's honestly just wipes right through the screen. During that party, there is this little 4-eyed nebbish dude who is probably like 5 foot nothing. Looks like, you know, like he's probably like a Jewish lawyer from New York or something like that, you know, kind of thing, like stereotypical kind of thing. And he's dancing with this towering, statuesque beautiful brunette who just looks like an Amazon goddess, and they're the biggest odd pairing, and you see them sort of trot through holding each other dancing, and it's just like one little sight gag. I'm like, that I want to see his story. I want to see what he's doing with that woman. How did that happen?
I thought that visually it was really nice too, because I know the one scene where he's dancing with the girl with the white dress.
Oh,
and like the scarf. Was going,
yes,
like, in the wind. Yeah.
The depth perception they do with like the matte painting and the set, like the set itself looks pretty big, but you can't see where the matte painting and the set, connect, like where one ends and the other starts. Like, it's very good. It just looks like they're in this vast space dancing.
And her flowing scarf that's really long, like everyone. I thought it was so beautiful. I thought that part was like visually so fun to watch. Like it was very fun. That's my word of the day, fun. I'm saying it a lot.
It is a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun shit in this. I totally agree.
It was a feel-good movie. Like, it was a feel-good from beginning to end. It wasn't as if there was any big conflict or crazy stories. Like, even with Debbie Reynolds, when they say, oh, well, you have a contract for 5 years, that lasted for, a couple minutes? And then Lena ends up getting discovered that she wasn't using her voice. So it wasn't like as if it was a long haul of, like, heartache. It was a very much a very feel-good the whole time movie. And it was cute. And the love story was cute. Yeah. Actually, the Singing in the Rain, that dance, I know it's so iconic. Like, they use that song everywhere. Even now, they're still using that song. But that dance in the rain, oh my God. Like, you just feel his energy. You just feel happy. You're like, I want to dance. I want to dance in the rain. I want to get some tap shoes and dance in the rain.
See, in Xanadu, he does it on roller skates, is all I'm going to say about that one. And,
okay.
It is magical,
How old would he have been in Xanadu?
Oh my God, I had to look that one up. He had to be in his 80s or something, or late 70s.
Shit. For a while, I was thinking to myself, Gene Kelly, he was in Ghost Story, right? Like, that was his last role. No, that's like Gene Autry or some other person.
Fred Astaire was in Ghost Story.
Yes, yeah. That's it. Has anyone got any sort of other final thoughts on this one?
The only thing I'm disappointed in, Gene Kelly, Debbie Reynolds, and Donald O'Connor did not, like, at the beginning of the scene, they sung Singing in the Rain together, the three of them together. I was so hoping there was going to be another scene with all three of them together doing, like, a bigger song. I know they did the one kind of Good Morning, but I thought there was going to be, like, a stage dance with them, like, to show all three of them. Because again,
I don't disagree there. It should have been a big finale, I think. Yeah,
like Donald O'Connor was like built up so much in the movie too, where Gene was always saying, "Hey, Cosmo, my buddy. Hey, he's with me. Hey, whatever." And I thought they were going to end up bringing him and Debbie Reynolds and Gene all together to do this kind of big finale for the three of them.
I thought they were going to all end up fucking.
Do it,
or
man.
That. I don't know in those movies. Those are not like.
I guess you can't do it in 52, but
they look like a throuple though. They totally act like a throuple. Like,
I mean, you can't really do it in 52, but like what Gary was saying earlier, there seems to be like a little bit of a gay coded subtext underneath between Gene and and Cosmo, just a little bit. Like I thought. Well, at first I thought.
Heteroflexible?
Possibly, because there is one scene in a party where he's like trying to chat up this redheaded girl, and it's like, oh, can you get me in the movies? Well, yeah, I could probably get you in the movies.
Casting couch.
So it's like, it's like the movie going, don't worry, normal 1952 American, no queers in this film.
Very straight.
Yeah.
I got throuple vibe off them though. I could totally see Debbie Reynolds being in something like that too. She's very.
I just learned what that word means, by the way, like this week. So I feel so special. Like, what the fuck is a throuple? I have no idea what that means. Oh, that's what it means.
I've only been using it more often. I would have just said like something open going on.
Maybe you should have said polyamorous triangle or triad.
Polyamorous, yeah. I could have said that too.
I don't know. For me, I liked it overall. I don't think I liked it as much as you guys did because I'm just not into.
You're full of hate.
I am full. I don't like to smile, guys. I don't like to laugh.
He doesn't like to feel love. He's heartless.
And when movies do that, it just, it makes me feel wrong.
It feels feelings.
Yeah, no, I think it's a little long for me. Like, I feel like I could have cut about 15 minutes out of this and been a bit happier with it.
There was some parts that I did extend a little bit too much, so I do agree with that.
But I do respect the movie on like a technical level and its performances and stuff like that. Like, it's very watchable. It's just, like I say, like some of the musical numbers, I just kind of like, okay, I'll check messages, what's going on, kind of thing.
There is that point in the movie where our duo is pitching to the bigwig about a number they should add to the thing, and there's like a 10-minute section of the film.
Yeah,
that kind of took me out of it a little bit, but that's about it for me.
Same. Yeah. That exact one. That is the one I was saying. It's that scene where he's like, yeah, I'll just add this. And it just seemed to go. And I was like, is this the part of the movie? Or is it still part of like the thought of what's going to go in the movie? Because it's still like imagination. So yeah, I do agree. That part was a little long-winded.
That's it though for me. Yeah, I think I would take out of the movie right there. Yeah.
It was so cute. I love musicals. I've been brought up with musicals. My dad watched all the musicals when I was a kid, which was hilarious because I was being shown Jesus Christ Superstar and Tommy at the same time.
See, that's a good double feature right there. See,
Tommy, I can get behind.
See, Tommy didn't need the resurrection scene. Now, Jesus Christ Superstar, as fabulous as it was, and as how amazing King Herod is just dancing around. If it had a post-credit scene where the resurrection happened, exponentially better, okay,
But it's like, especially in that period, for every Tommy you get like 15 fucking Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band, and I'm like, ooh, I'm not so keen on that.
And we're back to Anne Margaret again, see,
Yeah. So this had a budget of $2.5 million. It went vastly over budget, but it still ended up raking in $7.2 million, so it did pretty good overall. It is everywhere. You can fucking get it at literally everywhere. Every fucking medium pretty much you can think of, you can find it. Blu-ray, DVD, iTunes, Google Play, Microsoft Store, Fandango Now, Amazon Prime, Vudu, Movies Anywhere. There's probably some versions on YouTube somewhere.
I didn't find any.
You'd probably just have to, know to look kind of thing, but it's probably embedded in YouTube somewhere. Daily Motion. It's a movie that, is a classic that's sort of stood the test of time to the point where it's like, available. We have a little bit of trivia here. Like there was a shit ton of trivia too. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to pick a couple little bits here. So just a couple like personal things here on Gene Kelly. So working days sometimes stretch to 19 hours, and Gene Kelly was apparently quite a brutal taskmaster when directing this and coordinating everything. So Debbie Reynolds, who had never danced to this degree before rehearsal started, Fred Astaire, who was in an adjacent dance studio, found her crying under her piano and reassured her that all of her hard work was well worth the effort. So
Aww.
Reynolds herself remarked many years later that making this movie and surviving childbirth were the two hardest things she'd ever had to do. The filming experience was particularly unpleasant due to her harsh treatment by Gene Kelly, who was just like a total perfectionist. Kind of like Stanley Kubrick level of like, you fuck anything up. A hair is misplaced.
That goes back to, his theater days, though, to where if you didn't get it right, you stayed there till you got it right,
Yeah. Decades later, Kelly expressed remorse about his behavior. I wasn't nice to Debbie, he said. It's a wonder that she still speaks to me. Donald O'Connor and Debbie Reynolds admitted that they did not enjoy working with Gene Kelly since Kelly was verbally belittling and a tyrant. O'Connor said that for the first several weeks, he was terrified of making a mistake and being yelled at by Kelly. But
they
going
look
on,
so happy.
Oh yeah. You wouldn't know it on screen, right?
No.
And
they were whipped into shape. Holy fuck.
It shows you what kind of performers they were.
Yeah.
And just one little last bit here on Donald O'Connor. He recalled in an interview, I was smoking 4 packs of cigarettes a day then, and getting up all those walls was murder. They had to bank one wall so I could make it up and through another wall. We filmed that whole sequence in one day. We did it on a concrete floor. My body just had to absorb this tremendous shock. Things were building to such a crescendo that I thought I had to commit suicide for the ending. I came back on set 3 days later. All the grips applauded. Gene Kelly applauded, told me what a great number it was. Then Gene said, "Do you think you could do that number again?" I said, "Sure, anytime." He said, "Well, we're going to have to do it again tomorrow." No one had checked on the aperture of the camera, and they fogged out all the film. So that whole sequence he did and like killed himself doing, they had fucked up, and they had to just totally redo.
Oh no!
And he said, so the next day I did it again. By the end, my feet and ankles were a mass of bruises. So,
that scene didn't look comfortable either.
Mm-mm.
When you watched him do it, like it's fun visually to watch, but when you look at the actual process of doing it, like it wasn't fun at all for him.
Yeah, no, I just can't even wrap my head around like the level of athletic ability and stuff they had to like pull that shit off. Like it's just wow, well-trained dancers. I mean, you can see it in Debbie Reynolds. Some of the dresses and stuff she wears shows off her body, and she is just all muscle, like sinew, just wiry muscle. Like
the dancers too. You saw their legs.
Mm-hmm.
Also, some muscles on the legs. Their timing was impeccable. Like for the dance, you can see the perfectionist part because the dancing, the routines that they did, everything was like on point. They were all matching each other, especially for a movie like back then as well. Because I find that it tends to look a little bit messier when it comes to choreography sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But I found this one was just so clean. Same with like the dubbing when they did when she was singing. Lena was like voicing and Debbie Reynolds was in the back singing.
Mm-hmm.
That was really well done too.
Yeah,
that was. Yeah, because I've done dubbing and it's not like the easiest thing to try and match. So I think they did a really good job the whole way through editing and dubbing and everything.
Yeah,
it was very clean.
Not sure what we're doing next time. It's just kind of up in the air. We might have another guest. We might not. I'm going to look into that. See what we can figure out. We got a week to figure it out. I'm going to try to like get us back to weekly when we can do it. So we'll see what happens. Maybe Daniel will be back next week. Maybe that'll be the week he shows up. We'll see.
Maybe.
Yeah. Until then, Gary, it has been too long, but it's been an absolute pleasure to have you back. You can tell everybody about all the podcasts you currently do and something that you and I are doing here in the very near future as well.
Yes, if you guys haven't heard enough of my voice lately, I've been trying to release them weekly, but Cinema Beef Podcast is a thing that's been in my life since about 2014, and it comes out on Legion Podcast Network as much as all my other stuff does. That's a show we do multiple genre films, just like this thing. We find a theme, and we put two films together. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it don't. This is what research is for, people. 5 seconds of research. 2 drink minimum commentaries. Again, regular releases. I've been away from this stuff for a little bit here, but I'm getting back into it again. The next one that should be released is a film called Firepower, which stars Gary Daniels, Chad McQueen, who was Dutch from The Karate Kid, and Jim Hellwig himself, the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh my God!
Brandishing a sword in this film, and it's up and magical. What else? Blood from the Core is a new project I'm doing with Derek Bourgeois from the Cinema Attack podcast, and this is a show where we cover horror and thriller films from with our New York City based. First episode will be a Legion Patreon exclusive. So if you haven't joined Legion Patreon, it's $2 a month. Not just that show, but lots of other shows will be there, including Court's uninhibited, royalty-filled music episodes of Cinema Psyops are on there. And you can play if you want to. Even think about putting 2 Drink with the video on there as a Patreon exclusive, just because I could put it on there, but I can't put it on a regular feed. But that'll be a show that's a Legion Patreon exclusive. Look for that twice a month. And then, I got to take a breath there for a second. See, there's too much stuff going on, but you're feeling ambitious. You want to do things. And also twice a month, if everything works out, you'll hear myself and Mr. Lee Russell and Mr. Cameron Scott doing a great big Walter Hill podcast. He's a director writer, producer who I think has had one of the best runs in Hollywood ever, if you look at this stuff that he's done. So we're going to show him some love and do a show called Last Call at Torchies. And first episode being Hard Times. Starring Charles Bronson, James Coburn, and the guy that Leah wanted to be dressed up as in the cover art, Mrs. Strother Martin. So, looking forward to that. Looking forward to working with Lee. And Lady Lee, you're welcome to come on any of my shows, if you want to. I'll send you a list of the beef shows. There's some interesting stuff on there, some not so interesting stuff, depending on what you're into, of course, but
We all
yeah,
have
keep
our
it fun.
I'd be honored. That'd be awesome.
But I am done speaking now because that's too much as it is. So,
all right. And yeah, you can. Well, no, Lady Lee, you got anything to plug? Almost forgot. You're a co-host here. You should probably, say
Wow.
something.
Well, I'm in this podcast called "They Must Be Destroyed on Sight."
Oh, okay.
That's a good one right there by itself. So
If you haven't heard of it,
check that one out, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, and you can find that podcast and our other podcasts on our feed at They Must Be Destroyed on Sight, tmbdos.podbean.com. You can find our Apple Podcast, Facebook, YouTube, links all there. Join the fucking Facebook group. That's the best way to get in touch with us and find out what's coming up on the podcast. And until the next time, again, thank you very much, Gary. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you, Lady Lee. And thank you, people, for listening. We appreciate it. Bye-bye.
I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. I'm laughing at clouds so dark up above. The sun's in my heart and I'm ready for love. Let the stormy clouds chase everyone from the place. Come on with the rain, I've a smile on my face. I'll walk down the lane with a happy refrain, just singing, singing in the rain. Dancing in the rain. I'm happy again. I'm singing and dancing in the rain.
Thank you for listening to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. For further episodes, our Apple Podcasts, Facebook, and YouTube links, please go to tmbdos.podbean.com. Thank you. Drive through.